And now, joining us live from New Delhi, we have with us Dr. Srikanth Kondapalli on the broadcast. He's a professor of Chinese studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Now, sir, I want to begin by asking you, what would you say are some of the key focus areas for India at the BRICS summit?
Well, I think the current BRICS meeting is considering the expansion of the membership. Last July, there was a proposal from Iran, Saudi Arabia, and also Argentina and other countries like Indonesia, Turkey, so on and so forth. They have been reflecting on joining the BRICS meeting. And so this is number one item that is there. Second, of course, is the Ukraine conflict has resulted in a lot of turbulence in terms of the energy prices and food and fertilizer. Energy, if Saudi Arabia, the largest producer of oil and gas, if it joins the membership, then it would further strengthen the energy producing countries bloc within the BRICS. It also has the largest number of consumers like China and India in terms of the consumption, the second and fourth largest consumers in the world. So producers and consumers of energy in the BRICS. So that is a second item. Third, of course, is the relative decline in the BRICS economic growth rates and the possibility for expansion of the restructuring of the Security Council as well as the Bretton Woods institutions like the IMF and World Bank, voting rights. That are the third item on the agenda. And of course, there is rating agencies' role that BRICS is considering. So these are some main items.
Right, Dr. Srikanth, you speak of expansion and restructuring of the BRICS, but talk to us about what are the chances of a bilateral meeting between Modi and Xi Jinping. The last time both the leaders met was at the G20 dinner last year in November. Do you see any chance of both the leaders meeting this time?
Well, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval, had met with Wang Yi, the chairman of the China Foreign Affairs Committee, and also foreign minister. And there was the speculation about a structured meeting, bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping in the BRICS meeting currently. So this is still speculation because we have not had any official confirmation about it. Secondly, there is as you know, after Galwan, Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar mentioned that unless until peace and tranquility prevails on the border, there will not be any bilateral relations. We have not had any opening in terms of these relations because of the Chinese mobilization on the borders. It is estimated that they mobilized about 70,000 troops against India in the Ladakh Aksai Chin sector. And that means that if the leaders have to meet first, they have to involve in disengagement and de-escalation in the border area. So that is the sticking point for their meeting. It is not clear whether they will be meeting, but after NSA's meeting with Wang Yi, there has been a speculation about their... and also President Xi Jinping is expected to visit the G20 meeting in Delhi. For that, there needs to be some back-channel diplomacy. And a possible meeting between the two leaders now in BRICS would help in that process of understanding and further lead to some kind of concrete measures during the G20 meeting next month.
Right, sir, absolutely. Now, there are a lot of internal divisions within BRICS as well. Do you think the BRICS ambitions of becoming a global political and economic player that have been thwarted by internal divisions and a lack of a coherent vision?
Indeed, this is an intercontinental grouping and poised to expand further with several in the queue. But there are, the BRICS was formed, as you mentioned earlier, that these are rising economies. However, Brazilian growth rates have fallen, likewise South African, likewise Russian. Even Chinese growth rates have fallen to 3.3% last year, and they expect to grow at 5.5%. So the only rising country in the BRICS is India with 8.7% growth rate expected in 2023. So this is number one major challenge for the BRICS after the grouping came about in 2009. Second challenge is, as you mentioned, there is the internal rivalries, etc., between all of them. And these are related partly to their relations with the United States and also the other equations with the European Union and, of course, the ongoing Ukrainian conflict, which has torn apart many of the countries in the BRICS. Number two. Number three is that there is no FTA between all these BRICS countries, free trade area agreement. That indicates that there are concerns on the economic policies that each one of them follow. And intra-BRICS trade is also very low compared to, say, BRICS countries trade with the United States or Europe or other countries. So there is the third factor that economic integration is very less among the BRICS countries. And of course, they are seen as questioning the United States unilateralism in the Iraq-Afghan campaigns. However, we now see that there is Ukraine conflict taking the front line in the whole of the global strategic equations. And so they're kind of divided on this issue as well.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Srikanth, for joining us on WION and sharing your insights with us on this. We will, of course, be tracking the upcoming summit very closely here on WION. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.